Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you another tutorial. This time I'm going to be trying to learn a new skill when it comes to miniature painting. It's not so much a new skill, it's just a different way of looking at an already existing skill. So I personally feel like I am quite a competent dry brusher. I trust dry brushing more than the average painter. I don't see it as a crutch or anything like that. I definitely think it is a skill, and if you learn to do it properly, you can get absolutely stunning results. The proof of this is, of course, the emergence of the Artis Opus Series D dry brushes. These have changed the game in terms of dry brushing, but I do feel like I need to go back and do a refresher course and learn exactly how to use these beautiful brushes to get the stunning results that they do over on the Artis Opus channel. So Bryon over from Artis Opus very kindly sent me out this set of brushes for the video to try and learn the new skill. And of course, seeing how I'm learning a new skill, you'd think I would choose some canvas to learn on that isn't too risky, but to hell with that. So I'm going to be learning how to do it on my Kratos Heavy Assault Tank for the Horus Heresy. So big, gnarly, expensive model, but I trust the process and I'm gonna go for it. It's gonna be for my actual personal army, therefore I'm gonna go for Imperial Fists. I don't think I've ever painted successfully an Imperial Fist tank before, so I'm a little bit nervous, a little bit apprehensive, but let's get into it. So these are the bits and pieces that were very kindly sent out to me. So I was sent a full kit of the Series D brushes. So that's all 5 brushes plus the dampening pad and a little bit of brush soap in their normal, beautiful display box, which I really like that as a touch to their products. It makes me happy. And this is the Kratos Heavy Assault Tank that I will be tackling today. I'm going to be painting it in Imperial Fist colors, starting from black. Am I insane? Perhaps, but we'll get to that anyway. So the first thing I did is I'm going to start the process of building up that color from black. I just want a little bit more warmth to the base coat. So the first thing I'm going to do is go in with a Dryad Bark, which is a warmer brown color, and I'm going to stipple all over the tank with that, all the armor panels. At this point, I still didn't really have a vision in my head as to what I wanted the tank to look like, where the yellow was going to go, and so on and so forth. So I just started hitting all of the panels with the brown, and I would figure out the rest as we moved along. Watching a couple of the Artis Opus videos in preparation for this, so I could have a little bit, or so I could be a little bit more informed for you guys, and give you some decent insight into how these brushes worked, and also help me out to figure it out. I learned that apparently 90% of dry brushing a vehicle is actually stippling a vehicle, which is interesting. So I leaned heavily on that concept going forward. And as you can see here, I'm not going to just start dry brushing the model. I'm going to go in and stipple a model. Stippling is something that I have done before, but nowhere near the amount that is required to paint up an entire vehicle. So I honestly feel like I improved that stippling the whole way through painting this tank. Like by the time I got into the end, I wish I could go back and start again with the knowledge that I've learned. Even something as simple as when I had stippled before, I was quite heavy-handed with, like, I was basically stabbing the model with the brush, as you can see I'm doing here. Whereas by the time I got to the end of the process, it was quite a light, it was almost like you were feathering, but with a stippling motion, if you know what I mean. It was a really like lightly held brush, and if you know, those slight stabs weren't transferring paint from brush to miniature, it's not that you need to press harder, it's that the paint needs to be a little bit more moist, or you need to have more paint on your brush, or so on and so forth. So I just started by Averland Sunset stippling the tank, and starting to get down that base coat, starting to figure out where the yellow is going to go, and bits and pieces like that. We then move on to the next yellow, and I just went from kind of yellow to yellow to yellow. I basically worked up through, I think, a brown and then 4 yellows to get my coat. in Byron's videos, he talks a lot about the idea of he only has, say, 3 colors, and then he just mixes the paints the whole way along, like adding more into the last tone and building up the color variant slightly. For me personally, I wanted to do this on a bunch of different tanks, so I'm going to do the Spartan tank on this soon. Oh, this is a funny bit. Byron, this is an improvement I think that this pad needs to have. As you can see, it slides all around the table. It was driving me absolutely insane. So I had these spare little rubber nibs left over from some IKEA furniture. So I stuck 4 of them, 1 to each corner. And when that was done, it was just so much easier to work with. Because obviously you're holding the model with one hand and then you've got your brush in the other. So as you're trying to scrape off the paint, I don't know about you guys, but the thing kept sliding all around the table. It was driving me crazy. So once that was down, it's really solid in place. And when I had the brush, I could use it perfectly. After this, I had no more headaches with this and I loved it. So like I was saying, I like to use specific paints. Therefore, I can repeat the process more easily. And if you're doing a one-off thing, it doesn't matter at all. But if you're trying to do this for an army project, you're not going to have the exact same mixes the whole way across for every tank, so that might kind of throw it off. One thing sitting next to another thing on a table, it might look a little bit silly. So like I said, this is the Averland Sunset applied to the yellow, or to the tank. As you can see, it's kind of mottled and horrible, and this is straight away the next coat of yellow building up by 1 variant, and the difference is staggering. This is where I started to figure out the idea of kind of lighter touches give you better results. So as you can see here, when I apply the stippling process here, I'm not going to be so much attacking it. As you can see, it's a much lighter press on the tank. And if the paint stops transferring, I just go back to kind of creating the process using the dampening pad. You'll see that I won't go into too much depth about the dampening pad here in this video. This is definitely the thing that stands this kind of process out from other dry brushing videos you might see online, or like the Artis Opus series brushes. The brushes themselves are an absolutely stunning thing. They work an absolute treat. The dampening pad is what changes the game. I struggle with the dampening pad a little bit because my room was just so warm. I'd say it was like 20 degrees in my room, and the dampening pad just kept drying out. So I kept having to rework it, adding a little bit more water and stuff, which isn't something you should normally have to do. So like I said, if you went over to the videos that I'm going to link at the end of this video, Byron will talk to you through how the dampening pad should work a lot better. But basically at the end of each kind of stippling phase, then you start to attack the sides with a bit of actual dry brushing using rolling motions and stuff like that, just to catch the edges and add a kind of sharp yellow line across the armor panels. And here I am once again going to build up to the next yellow. Just working up brighter and brighter. It was at this point that I realized that the kind of inner armor panels are going to not be yellow, they're going to be black. So I stopped focusing on them, so you can see the front of the tracks there is black, and then in between isn't the same color as the kind of raised armor panels. So I'm just going to be focused on the raised armor panels for the rest of this for the yellow parts. I already love how that yellow looks. I know it's not exactly a completely smooth coat, it's that like slightly more mottled effect, but I think it looks really well. I think it actually looks something like tank armor. So going back in with the yellow, the brighter yellow. I mean, this process can be repeated by you guys. You just switch out the colors. You want a red tank for Blood Angels, or so on and so forth. It's definitely a skill that, like I said earlier, I improved on as I was even just making this video. So I cannot wait to see myself in kind of 6 months' time to see what effects I can achieve using these tools. And it's going to be a really exciting time. See how lightly I'm pressing the brush now. I'm trying to find that light source and try and do the raised areas a little bit brighter. It's one thing I've never been really good at in painting, is like that, finding the light source and using your highlights from there. I'm not very good at that whole thing. So that's another thing I would love to learn moving forward. I love how the yellow is looking. At the end I went straight up to a Dorn yellow, which is so bright it's almost like a kind of a pastel-y bony yellow. And with that one I didn't do any of the mottled dabbing effect or anything like that, the stippling. I went for a straight up edge highlight dry brush, just trying to catch the very sharpest points of the tank. And this really helps to finish off the yellow. Made all of the detail on the tank really jump out. Love it. It's at this point that I was getting really excited. I really wanted to jump straight into the next part where I like blocked out all the other colors just so I could see the kind of smooth yellow. Like, I know you guys, it's kind of hard for you to visualize because there's a couple of different tones of yellow, because I decided later on which parts were going to be black. But in a moment I will block out all the black panels and then get some silver on all the silver parts, and then that's when the yellow really screams off the model and you stop seeing all the variant colors. Once again, the Dorn yellow is still going around, just catching all the sharp edges anywhere where panels turn or panels meet. And then this is what the end result of the yellows look like. This is what I left the yellow at. I was delighted with it. I was starting to get super excited. As soon as I was done, I wanted to start pulling apart my Age of Darkness box set and getting my Spartan built and the Rhino I bought built so I can get it painted up. So here's me putting away my Artis Opus Series D that was sent to me. And just to show you that I am a fan of this product, even before these brushes were very kindly, freely sent to me, I then moved over to my Series S, which is from the original Artis Opus Kickstarter that I backed years ago. So I have supported this product from day one and I love them to bits. So I'm going to use these brushes to now start blocking in some of the other colors on the tank. So like I said before, I decided that the kind of under armor panels were going to be black, which I think will break up the yellow a little bit. And this is one of those times where you want to be quite precise with your painting, because now that the yellow is completely finished on the tank apart from weathering, you do not want to hit that with any other color you've done, or it's going to be super annoying to go back and try and fix. Because as it stands, it's sitting at like 5 coats of paint layered up to get to the result. There's going to be no way to repair anything you do unless you just cover it up with a bit of weathering, I suppose. So I'm going to spend some time going around getting some Corvus black paint on all of the bits that I want to be blacked out on the tank. And this is what we have so far. This is actually the first coat. I did do 2 coats of Corvus black because I was putting black over some areas that were yellow, which obviously is not as easy thing to do. So I'm going to do that. And then after that, I tried to go in with the Iron Hand Steel Silver and block in all the metallic parts. Which is another thing, which because it's such a large tank, tracks are huge. It's going to take a little bit of time. And exactly like the black, try not to hit the yellow, because it will be a difficult thing to fix. But this is it when the black and the silver was on, and now you can see all the yellow left behind is that beautifully finished yellow. I didn't think when I started this process that I was going to end with a yellow that wasn't like a completely flat, smooth coat. But having that effect going through it just makes it so much more kind of alive and vibrant. It doesn't look like a toy. It looks like it's a piece that I'm super proud of now. So yeah, I can't wait to finish it off and show you guys, because the end result again is something that I'm quite proud of. So we're going to throw a Nuln Oil shade over all of the bits that we painted black and all of the tracks. I then went in and gave those black bits and silver bits a light dry brush of the Iron Hand Steel again. I forgot to film this bit, I do apologize, but this cut the edges of the black parts and I added a little bit of an edge highlight to those. Now it's time to add the transfers. So I chose the transfers I wanted to apply to the tank and then applied them. If you're wondering how I apply transfers, there'll be a link at the top of the screen now to a video where I show you guys how to apply transfers. Now it's time to add some chip damage and weathering. So I'm going to use the sponge technique to add a little bit of dryad bark, which was the first yellow color, or the first color we put down underneath the yellow. So it would make sense that chips would be this kind of color. My personal Imperial Fist Legion is going to be from the siege itself. So these guys are battered and worn, torn, so I wanted to weather them a little bit. I will be weathering all my Marines, tanks, dreadnoughts, everything will have weathering and stuff on them. So obviously, because this is my personal tank, I'm going to do this. And I think it, once again, makes the yellow pop even more, having those little scratches and stuff. So here it is with all of the little sponged on scratches. As you can see, it's not too extreme. I'm not going crazy here. And then the last thing I'm going to do to the tank itself is I'm now going to add a little bit of weathering powder. For this, I went for some Humbrol Light Rust. It's just a nice orange or orangey weathering powder because my model is going to be based up with kind of a Martian scheme. And this weathering powder will suit the tanks really well. And with my Krieg, before I went quite heavy with the weathering powders, I'm not going to do that with this. I don't want to overshadow the beautiful yellow. I'm just going to go into places, nooks and crannies where dust would settle on a tank and add a little bit of weathering powder to them. I'm going to go a little bit heavier on the tracks. Obviously, they're going to be rolling through the dirt, so they're going to have a lot more powder on it than other panels. I also use this to somewhat cover up parts where my kind of lack of knowledge with these tools has left a few bits that I wasn't happy about. So in behind both of those hatches, I couldn't really get the brush in there properly. I didn't know what the process was, so I just added some powder, which is a perfect place that dirt and grime would build up, so it looked great. And this is the tank as it was finished, minus the tank driver. I did the tank driver that evening on my Twitch stream, so you will see it now in the 360 rotation, but this is the tank as a whole, as a piece, finished. Delighted with the results. And here it is in all its glory, with the tank commander sitting in his cupola carrying his thunder hammer. I deemed this tank the Hammer of Dorn, so when I was making the commander for it, I of course had to give him a thunder hammer. Super pleased to have this model in my collection, all done and dusted. I'm so delighted. Okay guys, there we have it. I think I have pulled off a decent looking Kratos Heavy Assault Tank in the 7th Legion Imperial Fist color scheme. I'm personally delighted to have this model off the backlog. I'm really pleased with the results. I would be more than happy to slap this down on a table and play a game with it. I hope you guys learned a few bits and pieces about dry brushing, or about the Artis Opus series of brushes, their Series D range. If you want to go in depth with these brushes and learn all the nuances, what I did is I watched a couple of Brion's videos over on Artis Opus. So if you've never been to their channel, I'll put a link down below. I'll give a link down below to 2 specific videos, which were the ones that I watched just before I started the video, just to get a complete refresher course on how he looks at dry brushing. So I recommend you guys check out those 2 videos. They're quite insightful, and he does a much better job at explaining his brushes, how they work, and he gets a much finer result because he is much more practiced. Give me a couple of months, Bryon, and I will give you a run for your money with your own product. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to do the normal stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.